He has been called the most influential man you've never heard of. He's Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, which is the world's biggest asset management firm. Put it this way, Larry Fink controls an amount of money that is bigger, as you just saw, than Germany's GDP. He is the subject of the cover story in the new issue of Bloomberg Businessweek, and joining us now is the author of that cover story, Bloomberg Businessweek's Sheelah Kolhatkar. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
Very interesting read. And essentially what Larry Fink has been able to do is to build this giant powerhouse on Wall Street without all the scrutiny that Goldman Sachs gets, right?
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons we wanted to write about it. A lot of people outside of the industry haven't heard of him. He's not a household name. And one of the reasons this happened is that asset management is fundamentally not a very sexy business. They manage money for pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth funds. They don't do a lot of the more glamorous things that investment banks do. So they have just quietly grown into this total powerhouse.
And they almost have the best of both worlds, right? They've been able to build this powerhouse, but at the same time, sort of fly under the radar so that they don't get that regulatory scrutiny. I mean, is that going? Do you get the sense that that's going to change, though?
Well, I think as they've grown so large, they control one of the largest pools of money in the world. I think people are starting to pay attention to them and have noticed the fact that anything they do moves the market. They are responsible for a huge amount of trading flow each day. So I think that people are going to start to pay attention. I mean, one thing they've been doing is lobbying to be excluded from a systemically important firm under the new regulatory reform legislation. So
you mean that they're not too big to fail?
That's it. And they have an argument. I mean, they don't use their balance sheet to make investments the way a lot of other financial institutions. So perhaps they are less risky, but people are starting to really notice and look at them a little more closely.
Now, you talked with Larry Fink, right?
I did. I did with my co-writers, three. Yep.
Okay. And he bristled at the comparison, did he not, between BlackRock and Goldman?
I think he really admires many things about Goldman, but yes, he likes to point out that they are in a fundamentally different business. And Goldman makes a lot of its revenue through trading, and BlackRock does not. BlackRock is just doing the kind of nerdy investing of teachers and firefighters, pension fund money. It's very different, but Goldman is much better known.
Right, of course. What did you learn about Larry Fink that you didn't know before?
He's a very interesting guy. He started his career at First Boston. He was a mortgage bond trader, and his entire sort of career was really triggered by this really big failure he had in the 80s. He lost $100 million in one quarter. He had to leave the firm in sort of disgrace, and that really scarred him. He became sort of obsessed with risk management and the idea that it's really important to understand the risk you're taking when you invest. So BlackRock was founded with that idea in mind.
What about his management style I know you visited his offices.
He's a very laid-back guy. I mean, I've heard that he's quite a hard charger in the office, but he certainly comes off as this everyman, very approachable guy. But he can talk about any kind of sophisticated economic policy issue of the day with incredible detail.
And he and his co-founders, I mean, is there a conscious effort, though, to try to improve the brand in any way or raise the profile of the brand?
This is something he mentioned quite a few times to us when we were reporting the story. He would like for everyone to know the name BlackRock. This is something that sort of bothers him, that no one's really heard of them. His employees have to explain to their parents who they work for.
What BlackRock is.
Exactly. And I think he is making an effort to become more public. He's out there talking a lot about the economy.
But what are they doing about that outside of that?
Outside of talking about it? Well, I think they're also trying to improve their performance. I think they've had some little stumbles. Their funds had some hiccups over the course of the financial crisis. They've been digesting a very large acquisition, Barclays, so that has led to some turmoil. So I think they're trying to kind of change the narrative a little bit about the company.
Well, very interesting and a good read. Thank you very much, Sheelah. Appreciate it. That is a profile on BlackRock's Larry Fink in this week's Bloomberg Businessweek.